Hi folks, today I thought we'd have a look at an upgrade board for the RM Nimbus 186. This one is an aftermarket version by a company called Centec Electronic Systems. It's a 1 megabyte card and it's seen better days. As you can see from the Philips capacitors here, some of them have gone bang, some of them just have bits missing from them, but either way they need to be replaced. Let's see if we can get a close-up shot of these. There you go. So we're going to have a go today at desoldering them and replacing them with something a bit more modern. And these are N22 ceramic capacitors. So that's going to be a 220 picofarad capacitor, and I have just the thing to replace it with. All the way from RS Components in the UK, new capacitors. So, tricks of the trade, we're going to use a desoldering tool. I find it just makes life a lot easier. They're not too expensive, you can pick them up for around 60 UK pounds, and especially for these double-sided boards, you really need something that can suck the solder out of them. Makes life a whole lot easier. So we'll power up the tool. It's going to make a bit of a noise unfortunately, but we'll give it a go. And this is the device we're going to use, desoldering gun. Let that heat up to about 330 degrees. And we'll see if we can take those old capacitors out. It's interesting looking at these capacitors on this aftermarket board. All the other boards that I have that are standard OEM research machines boards don't have this problem, so I can only assume they used a different quality of product. But saying that, they are Philips capacitors. I would have expected them to last as long as any other quality product, but something's gone awry somewhere, especially with this one. This one's definitely gone with a bang. I'm hoping it hasn't actually damaged the board. It's worth saying that these are just smoothing capacitors. I dare say the board may function without them, but this is what they're designed for. Especially on a memory board, you want a smooth signal. So let's give it a whirl. Let's try and desolder some. See if I can get the camera to focus. There we go. So as you can see, it's kind of sucked out the solder from around it. Doesn't always work though, it doesn't always release them, but we'll see if this one comes out. There you go. Makes life a whole lot easier, a desoldering tool. And leaves a nice open hole ready for the replacement. Okay, so I'll crack on and remove the others. Okay, that's all the capacitors removed there. No particularly difficult ones, they've all come out nice and cleanly. As I say, using the desoldering tool makes life so much easier. It's well worth the investment. Okay, so that's our aftermarket Centec board with the capacitors removed. Now it's just a case of soldering the new ones in place. They're ceramic capacitors, so there's no polarity on them, but these are the new ones. 5mm spacing, so these should just fit straight in. So it's just a case of popping them in and popping a bit of solder on them. I did have a fancy jig at one point where you could place all your components in, and then you would put it into this jig, and some kind of sponge would hold it all in place, and it made soldering things so much easier. But unfortunately, I've mislaid it. So it's going to be a case of just kind of popping them into place and soldering them. We'll just do the one for starters, make sure that we're working correctly. Lead solder, of course, none of this lead-free stuff. Especially when working with vintage electronics, it would have used possibly leaded solder anyhow. I just find it flows better than the lead-free stuff. And that's all there is to it. So it's just a case of popping them all in. I like to try and get them all looking the same kind of direction, but the markings on these is so small you can't really tell anyhow.